Welcome back again. And again, just to remind you, we're talking about the perspectives that we're looking at life through. And if we take the perspective that there is no one, there is no thing, and then there's no hope, then that's one path we can go down. But if we make the choice and say, there's got to be someone, there has to be something else, this can't be all there is, that's going to lead us to a different place. And my contention is it's going to lead us to a place of hope. Well, not only do we look at life through filters, but us looking through life through filters gives us those questions that come up, some of them hard questions, and we're looking for those answers. And sometimes looking for those answers is not like the magic 8-ball with an error message. Sometimes it's like a crystal ball that's really foggy and there's nothing in there. And I'm not endorsing you to go to a psychic to find out your answers, but I'm telling you that it's hard to find good answers to life's hard questions. And so we're just attempting to propagate an answer or two, and you can come to your own conclusions on those things. The question that we are led to, if there's a designer, if there is someone out there, if there's something else that put all of this in motion, if that's true, and we work off of that premise and we go a little bit farther down the path, it's not going to be very long before you come up with the question, why in the world am I here? And you know, this is a question that every yogi on the top of a mountain to the reprobate in the gutter, they're all asking, what in the world am I doing here? What is the meaning of life? Well, about 10 years ago, there was a popular movie, and I'm not going to ask who has seen that or heard of that movie, but it was called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And in that movie, there was a running joke. And they were asking, what is the meaning of life? Now, I can tell who's been to the movie or has watched it or knows about the running joke. What is the meaning of life according to the Hitchhiker's Guide? Somebody's holding up their hands and they said it's 42. That's the answer. That's the meaning to life. And it's a joke because it doesn't make any sense and it's not supposed to. It just tells about hear what they say, it's the answer to life, the universe, and everything. 42. Now that you got your answer to everything, you don't need to come to the next 2 seminars, right? But what the point is of this is they're trying to point out the absurdity and the futility of trying to think that we can answer life's hard questions about the meaning of life. But if we have come down this path to get answers to our questions, because if there is no one, if there is no thing, if this is all there is, then there's no answers either. But if there is someone and there is something and there's something I can pin my hopes on, I can guarantee you there's answers to our questions. Right? And so the answer is not 42, so cross that out on your book that you're taking notes so copiously on, right? It's not 42. There's an illustration I like to use. Any baseball fans here? Anybody know who Yogi Berra is? Or Hank Aaron? That's back in my day. Anyway, there's a story involving these two, and the well-known catcher for the New York Yankees, Yogi Berra, he was there, and of course Hank Aaron was one of the chief power hitters of his day, and he held the home run record before steroids, we knew what those were. Anyway, Yogi was one of these people, they were playing in the World Series, by the way, and he was one of these people that would do everything he could to distract the batter. And so he would just be chattering away while the batter's trying to concentrate on the rotation of the ball as it's coming and the timing and all of that. And so he would just be talking away. And so he was trying to distract Hank Aaron as he came to the plate. He said, "Henry, you're holding the bat wrong. You're supposed to hold it so you can read the trademark." Of course, Hank Aaron didn't say anything, but when the next pitch came, he hit it into the left field bleachers. And after rounding the bases and tagging up at home plate, Aaron looked at Yogi and said, "I didn't come here to read." The point of that story is Hank knew his purpose for standing at the plate. It wasn't to read the trademark on his bat. You and I would like to hit a home run with life. But we sometimes find ourselves distracted and we read the label or the trademark on the bat and we miss pitch after pitch. We need to know our purpose in life. We need to know that there is a reason that this master designer, this designer creator, whatever you want to call him, if you want to call him God, you say, there's got to be a reason that he put me here. And I want to know my purpose. There's another little story that was kind of interesting to me. Who knows who this person is? It was one of our presidents, right? After the Civil War, Ulysses S. Grant. That's good. You didn't know you were going to come here to learn history, too. I'm answering questions all over the place, apparently. Well, Ulysses S. Grant, in one of golf's immortal moments. Any golfers, any duffers out there? This is one you can tell on the golf course then. He had this Scotsman that was demonstrating this new game to President Grant. He carefully placed the ball on the tee and he took a mighty swing. Well, the club hit the turf and not much else, and it scattered dirt all over the president's beard and everything else all around, and the ball just placidly waited there on the tee. Again, the Scotsman reared back and took a mighty swing, and again he missed. Time after time, the Scot missed, and our president waited patiently through 6 tries. And then he had this to say. Well, there seems to be a fair amount of exercise in this game, but I failed to see the purpose of the ball. We laugh. But when it comes to life, we want to see the purpose of the ball. We want to know, why are we here? Right? Maybe that's why you're here. Why are you here at 6 Hard Questions? I don't know. Maybe it was a funky billboard. Maybe it was just the fact you had nothing else to do on a Friday night. I can think of thousands of things to do on a Friday night, but I want to know my purpose. When I was a young man, a teenager, I used to do a lot of this. And raise your hand, and I'm not going to look, but raise your hand if you ever did some of this stuff here on the screen. Just killing time. Nobody's killed time. I saw one person halfway raise their hand. I'm the only one in this room that has ever killed time. Well, when I was younger, I did a lot of killing time because life was in some ways just not interesting. Have you ever heard a teenager say they were bored? With all the things that we have to do today, you'd think that they would figure out that they don't need to kill time. But that's what I did. And I wondered to myself, I said, there's got to be more to life than just killing time. As I looked at the blank looks on my friends' faces, and they looked at the blank look on my face, and they said, what in the world are we doing? We didn't accomplish anything. We didn't achieve anything. We just hung out. Did you know that there are universities that teach classes on hanging out? Think of that, parents, when you're paying your tuition for your child to go to university and they say, I'd like to have a major in hanging out. No purpose. Just hang. What are you doing? Just hanging? We're exercising our thumbs sometimes, but we want to have a sense of purpose, of accomplishment, of figuring out that there's more to life than just existing. You see, if we took that other path in the negative, we'd say, we just exist, we just happened, we're just random, there's no purpose, we're just here. You see how that filter affects my decisions from there on out? But if I take this path and somebody put me here, they must have put me here for a reason. And then I can ask the question I'd like to know. Because I actually have somebody I can ask the question of. And so we can see how this making our choice, going down that path, is leading us. From Aesop's fable, who remembers in school the fable of the ant and the grasshopper? Anybody? Am I the only one that's that old? There's a few. Okay. The fable, the grasshopper said, I got all the time in the world, and the ant's just busy working and working and working, and the guy says, come on, have some fun. Hang out. And the ant says, no, I gotta get busy. I got stuff to do. And of course, the ant was industrious, and he had plenty of food for whatever was going on, and the snow's coming down, and the grasshopper's like, well, there's nothing for me to. And so that was the moral of the story was, you don't want to waste time. You want to figure something out. But when I look at an ant colony, I can't figure out what in the world they're doing. Have you ever done that? As a kid or an adult, just sit there and look at an ant colony, and here they are going this way and that? Did you know that they actually know what they're doing and what they're supposed to do? Every single one of those ants is reading a chemical trail left by somebody else with instructions on what they're to be doing to help build up the colony, to help their life be more fulfilled. There's just no purpose to it. They have a specific purpose, a specific design, if you will. Look at the hammer and the nail. They are designed to work in concert. Ladies, contrary to popular belief, the heel of your husband's shoe is not a hammer. And guys, contrary to popular belief, the hammer is not the only tool in your toolbox. It doesn't work for everything. There's a design to it, right? And you can tell by the weight of it that it swings and it's got a specific purpose to accomplish a specific goal. And that's just a dumb hammer and a dumb nail. The design and the engineering that goes into those things. Try using the wrong tool for the wrong purpose sometime and see how easy that is. It's not very easy. And so we can understand that something much more complicated than a hammer and a nail should have a purpose, don't you think? And so as we go down this path of a creator, a designer, somebody, something, and so we say, if we're designed, we must have a purpose. We just want to know what it is. And that's that hard question. Why am I here? What am I doing here? Why did this designer make me? Is there a purpose in the universe? There's some interesting facts in just our solar system, the concert in which everything works, and if it wasn't set up to a specific tolerance, you and I would not be able to survive. If we were a little farther away from the sun, we would freeze. If we were too close, or a little closer even, our oceans would boil and we wouldn't be able to survive. There's a very thin window. And there's a big $2 word for what that is, but it's all over. It's written all over the universe. In our solar system here on Earth and in the moon's orbit, if the moon was any larger, it would throw things on Earth out of kilter, and instead of having some nice tides going in and out, you'd have tidal waves, going in and out. And if the moon was any smaller, other things wouldn't work. Our axis would be off, and we would wobble more. And winters would be harsher and summers would be harsher. And so somebody somewhere had to figure out that it has to be exactly like this to sustain life there in that place. And we could talk all evening. I'm not a scientist, but there are people who could talk all evening about our location in our galaxy, or how our solar system is stabilized by the placement of the planets. There's a design with a purpose. All we need to look at, like Stephen Hawking, he says, I appreciate the design. And underneath that, what he was saying, he says, nothing's going to work if it's not designed. It's not random, even though I'd like to think that we're just here because. But there's no designer. But I appreciate the design. And I can tell Stephen Hawking that he better more than just appreciate the design. He owes his life to the design. Consider the systems in the human body, the intricacies of DNA, and we think we've mapped the genome and all this other stuff, and we know all these different things that cause us to be short and fat like me, or tall and skinny like you, or blue eyes, or brown eyes, or lots of hair like me, or hardly any hair like you guys out there. All those switches that get turned off and on, if they don't line up perfectly, in some cases we're unable to survive even the time in the womb. Everything is so intricately designed in our body. And think of the systems in your body that if they weren't operating properly, the chaos that it would cause. Your circulatory system, that gets the blood from one place to the other after it travels out and supplies you with oxygen, all your muscles and everything, your brain. What if that wasn't functioning properly? They call that maybe a stroke or an aneurysm or something in your circulatory system, or heart attack. All these things happen when things don't work right. The digestive system. I know a lot of people appreciate when your digestive system works. Our immune system. Some people are born with low immunities and they have all sorts of problems in life. It's because as human beings we are designed with a purpose. Not just for survival, but for survival in such a way that it's like a musical concert. All the notes in perfect order, in perfect time. Everything has to work in order for us to exist. Incredible, incredible purpose. We are created, we are designed to work as functioning human beings. We didn't just happen. I want to share a story about purpose. We had some funny stories at the beginning of this little talk. But it's very human for us to begin to look at something even as deep as purpose, and then we forget what we're looking for. Tennessee Williams tells a story of someone who forgot their purpose. The story of Jacob Brodsky. He was a shy Russian Jew whose father owned a bookstore. The older Brodsky, he wanted his son to go to college. The boy, on the other hand, desired nothing but to marry Lida. Wow, his childhood sweetheart, a French girl. She was vital and ambitious, and he was contemplative and very retiring in his mood. A son returned home, buried his father, and married his love. Then the couple moved into the apartment above the bookstore, and Brodsky took over the management of the bookstore. All he wanted in life was to marry Lida. The life of books fit him perfectly, but it cramped her. She wanted more adventure, and then she found it, she thought, when she met an agent who praised her beautiful singing voice and enticed her to tour Europe with a vaudeville company. Brodsky was devastated, and at their parting, he reached into his pocket and handed her the key to the front door of the bookstore. He said, "You had better keep this," he told her, "because you will want it someday. Your love not so much less than mine that you can get away from it. You will come back sometime, and I will be waiting." She kissed him and left. And to escape the pain he felt, Brodsky withdrew deep into his bookstore and took to reading as somebody else might have taken to drink. He spoke little, did little, and could most times be found at the large desk near the rear of the shop, immersed in his books while he waited for his love to return. Nearly 15 years passed after they parted. At Christmas time, she did return. But when Brodsky rose from the reading desk that he had been his place of escape for all that time, he didn't take the love of his life for more than an ordinary customer. Approaching the strange woman, he said, "Do you want a book?" That he didn't recognize her startled her, but she gained possession of herself and replied, "I want a book. I want a book so badly, but I've forgotten its name." Then she told him of a story of a childhood sweethearts and a story of a newly married couple who lived in an apartment above a bookstore. A story of a young, ambitious wife who left to seek a career, who enjoyed great success, but could never relinquish the key her husband gave her when they parted. She told him the story she thought would bring him to himself. But his face showed no recognition. Gradually she realized that he had lost touch with his heart's desire. That he no longer knew the purpose of his waiting and his grieving. And all he remembered was the waiting and the grieving itself. You see, you remember it. You must remember it. The story of Leah and Jacob. Stroking his beard after a long pause, he said, "There's something familiar about that story. I think I might have read that story. I think I read it somewhere, and it comes to me that it's something from Tolstoy." Dropping the key, she left the shop, and Brodsky returned to his desk, to his reading, unaware that the love that he had waited for had come and gone. Purpose. He had forgotten the whole purpose of his grieving, and it was right in front of him. It was unrecognizable to him because he was so wrapped up in the here and the now, not in the possibility of what there could be. And so he missed out. You and I are in a similar position. Nietzsche said it this way, and he has an outlook on life of no one, no thing, no hope. He says, to live is to suffer, and to survive, that's to find some meaning in the suffering. Really? Is that what we have to look forward to? To say, good morning, I hope you find some meaning in your suffering today. It changes your whole outlook. And sometimes we get so focused on our grieving and so focused on something here and now that we forget that there's something else, there's someone else, there's more. And we want to experience that. And I hope you want to experience that too. And as we explore a couple more hard questions here over the next couple nights, that the purpose that we have here, is it, as Nietzsche said, is it just to experience pain and to find some kind of meaning in the suffering? Is that it? And so the third hard question that we're going to talk about tomorrow night, and I hope to see you tomorrow, the question that leads to as we go down that path, if there is a purpose in my life and somebody has directed my steps and I'm here for a reason, then why in the world are things so difficult? Why is there so much pain and suffering that we need to endure as human beings? Rebecca Thompson fell twice from the Fremont Canyon Bridge. She died both times. The first fall broke her heart. The second fall broke her neck. She was only 18 years old when she and her 11-year-old baby sister were abducted by a pair of hoodlums in a store near Casper, Wyoming. They drove the girls 40 miles southwest to the Fremont Canyon Bridge, a one-lane steel beam structure that looms 112 feet above the North Platte River. The men brutally beat and raped Rebecca, but she somehow convinced them not to do the same to her 11-year-old baby sister, Amy. Both of them were thrown over the side of the bridge and into a narrow gorge. Amy died. She crashed into a rock near the river. But Rebecca slammed into a ledge and was ricocheted into deeper water. With a hip fractured in 5 places, Rebecca struggled to the shore to protect herself from the cold. She wedged herself between 2 rocks and waited for the dawn to come. But the dawn never came for Rebecca. Oh, the sun came up, but she was found. She was taken to the hospital, and the doctors treated her wounds, and the courts imprisoned her 2 attackers. Life continued for Rebecca, but the dawn never came. The utter blackness of her night of horrors lingered. She was never able to climb out of the canyon that symbolized the anguish of her past. So in 1992, 19 years after the attack that took her sister's life and fractured her own, Rebecca returned to the Fremont Canyon Bridge. Against her boyfriend's pleadings, she drove 70 miles an hour to the North Platte River, and with her 2-year-old daughter and her boyfriend at her side, Rebecca sat on the edge of the bridge and wept. Her tears came in deep, ragged sobs, and through the tears she choked out the story of her little sister Amy and the horrific event that had happened. The boyfriend didn't want the little 2-year-old to see her mama crying, so he carried the toddler to the car to put her in the car seat. And as he was closing the car door, he turned to Rebecca and he heard the body hit the water. And that's when Rebekah died the second time. The sun never dawned on Rebekah's dark night. Why? Was it fear, perhaps? What purpose, what meaning was there to life after all, if it's nothing but pain and suffering? Shall we take Nietzsche's advice and say, you need to find the meaning in that? The purpose in that? And if there's a designer out there, if there's a someone and a something and there's something more, then why in the world does He allow things like this to happen? You see, she had testified against the two men, pointing them out in a courtroom. One of the murderers had taunted her by smirking, and on the day of her death, the two men had been up for parole. Perhaps the fear of a second trial was too great for her. Maybe it was anger. Anger at the rapists. Anger at the parole board. Anger at herself and the 1,000 falls and the 1,000 nightmares she had where she wasn't able to save her 11-year-old sister. But she continued to live. What purpose? What meaning could there be? Whatever it was, Rebekah couldn't get past her past. She tried. Oh, how she tried. And her friends would later say that she was the life of the party and that she had a beautiful smile and she treated everyone she met with respect and kindness. But she couldn't get past her past. The meaning for her was too full of pain. How many of us today live in the quiet desperation of a past that we can't let go because we have chosen a path that leads to no hope, of nothing better? What path will we choose? Will we choose the one that says pain is just part of the meaning? Or will we choose one that will explain the meaning of pain? And you'll find out the true purpose. And so the question is, was pain part of the plan? Why is there so much pain and suffering? If you come tomorrow night, I'll attempt to explain as we take this journey of discovery down this path of someone, something to hope in, something to believe in, and why we're here. What purpose is there? And so if you join me tomorrow night, I'd greatly appreciate it.